You're watching Access Minnesota. Here's Jim Dubois.
Frank Ball continues the discussion on the state's liquor laws.
Frank, if you're trying to open a bar in Minneapolis, for example, what challenges do you face?
Let's say you and I want to open up a bar. We would first go to the city clerk. In Minneapolis, they have a licensing authority, actually a division on of its own. And there's a big questionnaire you have to fill out. First of all, you have to make sure there is a license available. And there are licenses available, but they're in areas that doesn't have high traffic. So let's say we find a nice building right down that Hennepin Strip or Uptown, for example, and we go to City Council, we said we'd like to put a liquor license there. Well, you can't, there's no liquor license there. Well, yeah, but we've got this great store, we've already bought it, now we want to make a liquor license. Sorry, we don't have a liquor license there. So you have to take a lesser one. Well, let's say we find one that we're going to buy. Then we have to fill out the very lengthy questionnaire. You have to be backgrounded by the chief of police. They have to prove it. The city council has to prove it. You have to have dram shop insurance, which is very costly. You have to have insurance for the establishment. You have to have neighborhood approval. It has to be approved by the city council, the fire marshal, if they have a fire marshal in the city. And once all these things have been approved, then it goes to the state of Minnesota Alcohol and Gambling Enforcement Division, and they double check to make sure that is all correct, that the city clerk did the right thing and got this all done. Then they will send you and I a buyer's card. The buyer's card now allows us, after everything's been all inspected and put together, probably takes several months to do this, the buyer's card allows us to go to a distributor that can come in and they can sell their products to us. And only with that buyer's card can you purchase alcohol to sell at retail. Now if you fail at any of those things, or if you don't pay your taxes, if you get sideways with the cops, if you do something that's offensive to the city council, they can suspend your license. They can take your license away, or they can fine you. Or you lose that buyer's card. Once you lose the buyer's card from the state, you can't purchase alcohol anymore. So see, it's very structured. Getting into this industry is no easy matter. It sounds fun up in northern Minnesota where I'm from. Several of the bars have closed up there, and we get a lot of retired folks that come up and buy the place for a contract for deed with a big downstroke. And they say, what do you mean we need a license? Why we can't sell? This is stupid, this is crazy. Why do I have to have insurance? Why do I have to be trained? Why can't I buy liquor and then just sell it to the public? There's all these questions that public, if they're not educated on this, they don't understand. So going into Minneapolis, which is really restricted, or St. Paul, which is really restricted, you best go down and talk to the city council if you have an alderman or a city council member that you know, or go right to the licensing authority. In the smaller communities outstate Minnesota, go see the city clerk, and you've got a matrix to follow.
Frank, you bring a unique perspective to your job. You are a former law enforcement officer responsible for enforcing liquor laws. You now run the trade association that represents liquor interests. Are there certain laws pertaining to liquor, alcohol in general, that you think absolutely should not be changed?
Oh, yes. And this is kind of a, which shoe am I wearing? As a law enforcement officer, I knew these people. I ran that division. And they're great business people. They're wonderful people, and they do a lot for the community. In some of these remote areas in the state, which I've really grown fond of because I've never been able to reach out that far. Helen and Glenn Whiting from Vining, Minnesota, with 500 people in it. When there's a death in the community, everyone meets at the Vining Palace. If there's a fundraiser that needs for some little kid that's got cancer, they meet with Glenn and Helen. There's wedding receptions. There's birthday parties, there's these events. Everything that happens sociably in Vining, Minnesota happens at Glenn and Helen's. We are a social species. We have to be around people. All these little small bars and restaurants throughout the state of Minnesota are our hospitality places where people go. If the erosion of the three-tiered structure, if the manufacturers take over the retail establishments, it'll be brought in by the major manufacturers globally. If we can keep this three structures in place, it keeps the little places in business. It keeps the people who have been good taxpayers, it's been made good business people that have been good neighbors in these communities. It keeps that strong. It keeps the price down, it keeps the consumption at a level that is obtainable, and they're great business partners.
Frank Ball, Executive Director of the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association, thanks so much for joining us on Access Minnesota.
Glad to help out.
That's all for this month's edition of Access Minnesota. Thanks for watching.
Access Minnesota. Issues that matter to you. Join us again next week as we bring you the newsmakers and stories that shape our everyday lives. Access Minnesota is produced by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association in cooperation with the University of Minnesota's College of Liberal Arts.